for a brand?
No, I think it's a disaster of great note that we can't avoid. But I think what was important with the BP case is owning up quicker. You know, not trying to say, well, you know, not that, it's this. You know, because consumers, if you stand up and say, yes, we realize the problem, we're working on it.
That's
they can
right.
trust you. You know, it builds that trust. I mean, there's been cases like Tylenol in the US, you know, where there was some cyanide injected into capsules. Now, the sooner you take ownership and actually withdraw the product, you're saying to the consumer, we care for you, we care for your health, and we know what you're doing. But you spend a lot of time trying to doctor yourself out of the situation. When it blows up, it's impossible to really retain.
Charles, how should they have handled this situation?
Well, the BP guys, there was silence, there was denial, there was blame sharing.
Well, the press called them arrogant.
It does take an enormous amount to sink a large brand of that nature. But then look at Anderson's. After the Enron scandal, Anderson's, the largest, most respected accounting firm in the world, ceased to exist. And they did it, they closed their doors purely because of the reputational damage that was done to them because of 12 people in an office in Houston with a shredder. And that brought them down. So it can happen. Before the Andersons' demise, of course, they had already created Accenture as a separately branded consulting firm. And Accenture continued because it wasn't seen as part and parcel of the same.
But it was Monday before.
We're going to have to leave it there, gentlemen. We have to go to a break. Well, after the break, we take a look at the dangers associated with brands becoming public domain. Stay tuned. Well, before the break, we discussed the importance of protecting intellectual property and reputation management. Now, let's turn our attention to brands becoming public domain. Well, still joining us in studio is Darren Olivia, Giles Shepherd and Louis Siecho. Let's look at the case of Justin Nurse and the laugh it off t-shirts, the infringements on trademarks and the in and out of court cases. Giles, how damaging is this to a brand? Do you think people are going to stop buying Carling Black Label?
I seriously don't think so. I think it was a misjudgment on the part of SAB to pursue that case in the way that they did. I think the result, in the end of it, was more damaging to SAB and to the brand than if they just left it alone. People are always going to take pot shots at and have fun with high-profile brands. You know, there are lots of examples of them. A lot of them are very amusing. And the substance in a brand and people's belief systems and senses of loyalty to brands are made up by a myriad of things and attributes and ideas. Something as simple as even a snide remark or a joke on a t-shirt, I really don't believe is going to runs the risk of causing any significant damage.
Darren, would you like to comment on that from a legal perspective?
Well, the case itself internationally was very well read and commented on simply because it was one of the first cases ever that, well, certainly out of the United States, where freedoms of free speech has almost usurped trademark principles. That's not what the judge found, but it borders on that side. I mean, there's a free speech and how brands deal with that. It's difficult for me to comment because I know those particular people who took the action quite well, and so does my firm. But on the other hand, I think it displays the risks that one takes in enforcing one's rights. And that, I think, is going to increase because of social networks, and it's so much you can't control in the media.
Back to you, Louis, your thoughts on the public controlling a brand or having sort of freedom of speech. Would you look at it as a tongue-in-cheek in this instance, or are we just trying to be too politically correct?
Well, I think laugh it off should have been what the SABC approach. I mean, SAB approach, because I mean people do it anyway. I think when matters of this nature come into the public domain, is something that you should just laugh off, because the more you drag on it and you go the legal route, I think the more you keep it in the media. The more you make it, viral, the more you get it onto YouTube,
right,
the more it really blows out of proportion. And the fun of it is that consumers are doing it anyway.
Anyway.
You know, so it's better to focus on building your brand. You know, getting those brand values that you've put behind your brand out there in the marketplace. And I think in time, these things die off. But if you try and protect a brand in an area that you shouldn't be focusing on, I think it just drags it unnecessary.
I'm not sure I would ever have known about the Black Label T-shirt if it weren't for the case. And I would say that's true of most of us.
I think you should ask FIFA that same question when they arrested the Bavaria girls.
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's creating that publicity, isn't it?
I mean, some of us knew of them as a non-alcohol beer, but who really knew of Bavaria?
No one in South Africa. No one in South Africa even knew that there was this ambush marketing. Louis, you just conducted a brand pilgrimage, which sounds very interesting, to get a better understanding of brands and behaviors in local cultures. Share some insights with us.
Well, I think from a brand point of view, when brands do great work out there, consumers do notice. Sorry, you'll know that Colgate in many of our Black African communities refers to a toothpaste.
Yes.
So any toothpaste is called Colgate. At times you'll find somebody walk into a shop and say, I want that Aquafresh Colgate. You know, and it really has to do with brands that get into the lives of people.
Isn't it the same
make
with
a great impact?
With Omo and Rama? There's so many of these examples out there. Why is that?
I think it's when you hit the correct chord, you know, as a company or brand with your target audience, where they begin to see any margarine as Rama, you're doing a great job. If they're beginning to see any plastic bag as a Checkers, it shows what the brand, you know, the original brand has done in that environment. But let's also not forget that there's an issue of education here and language. You know, our advertising is predominantly in English. So you find in very rural and, you know, low education type of environments, you know, these words are thrown at people. One, they don't understand what these words mean. And they end up being generic names for all brands in that category.
The question is, if they call it Rama, do they actually purchase Rama?
That's a very interesting one. They would call it Rama. If they are looking for something else, they would say, no, I want that one, not this one.
Not this one.
You know, so I think the issue of language is very key. I know that there are some consumers who know brands by their colors and the symbols on the pack. The ability to read the name might not be there, but they know that this is what the one I'm looking for. Hence, if you're going to change your label, don't do it within your four-corner walled room. You need to go out there and find out whether your consumer is ready for a change.
That's clever branding,
we know of
isn't
big
it?
brands that have gone the route of saying, we've got the budget, we think we're going to make our brand sexy. They carry on and change the label and do all sorts of things. The reaction from the marketplace has always been shocking. And usually it doesn't matter how much money you have to try and support it from marketing and advertising. If you've changed that thinking or perception in your key consumers, the brand is dead. Lion Lager is one case in point. You know, there was no engagement and communication with the support of the brand to say, this is what we have as an idea, what do you think? You know?
Right.
Look, I mean, there's also, you know, there are good examples of brands that have become generic references and where it's been favorable. There are also examples where it's been very negative for the brand owner, and a key example is Post-it notes. Now, anything that's vaguely square, yellow, and sticks on something that you can write on is called a Post-it note. 3M, who created that product, have actually lost the reference to a generic, and they will never get it back, no matter how hard they try.
But is it favorable to brands to be generic like that?
It can go both ways. I mean, Jeep made a big effort some years ago to retake the name Jeep and stop it from being referred to as a generic for anything vaguely 4x4-ish. And they've started a campaign where they had the round headlamp with an R out of mud in it, saying a reminder that Jeep is a registered trademark of Dane McChrysler Corporation, because it was starting to do them harm. You know, if somebody is referring to margarine as Rama but is seeking out Rama, that's good. But if they're calling it a Hoover, and it doesn't matter whether it's an LG or a Samsung or anything, it's the Hoover, you know, it's not doing the brand any favors. So it's a dicey area.